welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Prickly Hedgehog. Thanks for tuning in for another video, which I hope finds you well. Today we're going to talk about my early impressions of the Hind and its recent release. Now, many of you know, or should know, that the Mi-24P Hind was released last week by Eagle Dynamics into early access. The aircraft really represents and is the culmination of 50,000 plus man hours by the Hind team. The aircraft now joins several other rotary wing aircraft in the game, including the Ka-50 Black Shark II, which is soon to be re-released as the Black Shark III. That will be an additional purchase and is going to receive some new weapons, I believe, and also some additional exterior modeling as a result. It's not a compulsory buy. You can still fly the Black Shark II in its current guise. We also have the Gazelle, and we also have the Mi-8, and lastly we have the Huey, the famous Huey, which are all flyable in the game right now. Now, later this year, ED has also promised the Big Daddy into early access, which of course is the Apache. And there are hints, I believe Wags had hinted at this in another video, that there are other helicopters in the works. Whether they are being considered, whether they are being worked on, we don't know just yet, so stay tuned. Once we know more, I certainly will reveal. We do have a helicopter that is still in development from third-party developer Polychop, the Kiowa. Now this was very much a vaunted attack helicopter, a lighter attack helicopter than of course the Ka-50 and the Hind. But there was some sort of setback. I believe this may have been caused by core game engine changes that must have caught Polychop by surprise, perhaps. I'm not sure. That's a little bit of a guess, and if I'm mistaken, then correct me. But yes, this has put that helicopter backwards in development, and they're having to revamp the product before they can release it. Maybe if Polychop is listening, they can give us a little bit of an update, but I know a lot of people are looking forward to this particular aircraft as well. Now, despite that setback, it's still a really good time to be a chopper pilot, and as mentioned, the Hind now joins the Ka-50 as a true redfor heavy attack helicopter. So let's talk about some early impressions and a little bit of back history with this aircraft as well, just a brief overview. Well, it's fair to say that the Hind looks absolutely fantastic. The exterior modeling is well done, and while there is more work to do on the aircraft, the initial product will probably provide plenty of opportunity for a variety of mission options without pilots feeling shortchanged. This was a vital lesson that ED learned when they made the mistake of releasing the F-16 a little too early. It was put into early access well short of expectation, especially given that the aircraft has a long history in games like Falcon 4 BMS, and ultimately that was used as a reference for comparison, and it wasn't necessarily favorable. For ED, I think the aircraft really has been a part of flight sim communities for more than 2 decades, so expectation was very, very high. And they dropped the ball a little bit when they released that, and they have gone on and admitted that they did that. Didn't even have a damage model when it was first released. A small thing, but it made a difference in the grand impressions of that particular aircraft. Lessons were learned though, and I think the feedback on this Hind from a broader player base will be able to enhance ED's ability to rectify, of course, bugs that they have and continue progress on this helicopter's development. Also, it will continue to advance with, I guess in part, revenue gathered from the pre-order sales and the general enthusiasm for the aircraft, which has been pretty high. Now, it's a big helicopter. It's 53 feet in length. It stands some 13 feet high. The engines are, of course, sourced from the Mi-8, each producing around about 2,200 shaft horsepower. But even when empty, it's still a big beast. It weighs around about 18,000 pounds, and when fully laden, it's 26,500 pounds, which limits its maneuverability and agility, especially at low speed when it's trying to get up and running just to get off the ground. Development began in the mid to late 60s, and based on lessons seen from helicopter operations by the US and Vietnam, and of course the changing battlefield environment post-World War II, there was a need for this kind of helicopter. One of the strengths of the early design was the ability to insert troops into combat while maintaining a strike capability, which a lot of helicopters for the period couldn't do. And that role, though, changed a little bit in later years based on combat experience. Of course, by the late 70s, the aircraft was in production and it was put into combat, including famously in Afghanistan, where a lot of people are familiar with its role there. The airframe has seen, of course, extensive operation in most parts of the globe, the export version designated Mi-25 and Mi-35. It's a true combat veteran, and while not impervious to ground fire or SAM missiles like the Stinger used in Afghanistan to effect, the capability of the aircraft is not in dispute, and its reputation as a flying tank is well deserved. The Afghani anti-Soviet forces referred to it as Satan's chariot, for example. It has a deserved and feared reputation in ground attack roles. The airframe is reputed to have outperformed engineering design expectations and parameters and can take considerable punishment. Unfortunately, ED's damage model is still a work in progress, but expect improvements in that area as it matures in the game, and they've been able to give more time to priority development, as mentioned, which, once they get round to this part of it, will provide a lot more additional realism, which is really neat. If we move inside the helicopter, of course, the interior has been extremely well done and features a very clicky cockpit and high rendering. A lot of detail in there. I've been particularly impressed with the illumination of the cockpit, the display backlighting, overhead lighting, working windshield wiper, and of course the famous fan, which was not left out as an early access feature. It's not encumbered with high-end modern avionics systems or deeply layered LCD MFDs, something we'll see in the Apache, of course. But the cockpit is functional, it's robust, it's mechanical, a little bit agrarian perhaps by comparison, but it's a feature of Russian equipment of the era. Many perhaps though will enjoy that it has dials and some degree of simplicity in that sense, which allows you to get to grips with the flying and not be distracted with complicated displays or having to spend time scrolling through menus or submenus to find information. In fact, you'll be relying on old technology a lot to get around in this beast, as the map display is really only a representation of where your whereabouts are. There's no modern GPS data allowing for in-flight INS type referencing or alignment, or those super handy SA pages with digital waypoints that can be updated on the fly. Compass bearing directions and time to flight destination are the order of the day with the Hind, something that was once the bread and butter of World War II pilot navigators. This will make night missions particularly challenging, I think, as visual landmarks may be obscured, something that can be used to readjust the position locator during the day when it essentially gets out of whack if you go off-piste too much. The map system is something other YouTubers have kind of described as a navigational etch-a-sketch tool, or etch-a-sketch tool, I think is the correct term, which is not a bad way of describing it. Again, though, it kind of represents the charm of the aircraft, its visceral function, and of course its age. Look to the Mi-28, the Ka-50, and of course the Ka-52 as representations of more modern Western competitors for the Apache. The Hind, of course, is really a stalwart of the Cold War, but it's still flying in dozens of countries today, and it's still a formidable weapon. The cockpit provides good visibility out of the left-hand side, but visibility is obscured to your right, thanks to the high-sided, heavily armored door. Forget about being able to see below your feet, and of course to the rear, a problem that is only partially remedied thanks to mirrors. While the nose-mounted operator seat provides slightly better positioning for visibility and is equally well assembled by the ED team, the primary piloting position, of course, is the rear operator's seat, as the front seat is really the weapons room of this powerful gun platform. This makes hovering, low-level maneuvering and landing especially challenging, and to be fair, as a relative newcomer to helicopter piloting, it's not something I can say I've actually mastered, especially landing, which more often than not ends in a fireball. It's quite a challenging beast to fly, in other words, and this is true of a lot of helicopters. It's not simply a matter of mashing the throttle for more power, rather it's a synchronous balance between engine power, torque management, and careful use of the cyclic. Failure to do so quickly leads to uncontrolled spins, rolls, and direction changes as the torque overpowers your input controls. Once moving though, it's a delight to fly, and at one time 2 female Russian pilots set the world speed record in the Hind, which lasted until the mid-80s, where a certain Western Lynx took the crown. As it stands right now, the Hind has a lot to offer experienced and new pilots. Massive 30mm cannon and a range of rockets, bombs, and supplemental machine gun pods should give suitable mission options as already mentioned. The Petrovich AI piloting feature which I've actually yet to test, will allow you as a single player to take the gunnery position and allow him to fly to point. But you're able to operate the basic weapons from the pilot's position as well, which means you're not just stranded as a mere taxi pilot for the front seater, which can sometimes be a little bit of a feature of the F-14 at times. In this case, the roles would be reversed. As the pilot, you're kind of taxiing the Rio around, although they have done work on that with some new Iceman features too, in fairness to Heapler simulations. But back to the Hind, being big, being heavy, and hard to see out of. As I mentioned, these aircraft features adds additional challenges, and of course the takeoff and landing configurations, you've got to be spot on. But a lot of people enjoy that challenge. It's a thing that DCS pilots enjoy. A range of tutorials and informative videos are already starting to emerge from the community members, and of course it will be interesting to see how these evolve as time goes on, especially with any authors of real-world expertise. I've enjoyed Cosmos TV's series, not just on the Hind, but also Helicopter Fundamentals. As a former helicopter pilot, military helicopter pilot, his insight is invaluable to how to manage the torque and power in helicopters. It's been a good series of videos that he's produced. My early impressions, therefore, are highly favorable, as you can tell. I think it's a faithful recreation of a very, very powerful weapon platform, which will offer a less high-tech experience than the Apache, but nonetheless rewarding for pilots wanting to get up close and personal in their air-to-ground kills, which is not always the case in jets where you can drop bombs from tens of thousands of feet. Syria, well, it's a neat place to fly the aircraft as well. All we need now perhaps is a jungle theatre or Afghanistan, but I'll settle for the Marianas and Cyprus for now. Let me know if you have this aircraft, what your thoughts are and what your early impressions are of the Hind. Make a comment in the comment section below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, well, do something else. But let me know what your thoughts are. And yeah, let's have some discussion on this awesome helicopter. I'm looking forward to seeing it evolve in the game from the Hind team. And of course, we're looking for these other aircraft to appear in the game as well, to add to the list of exciting aircraft that we have to fly in Eagle Dynamics' DCS world right now. So shout out and thanks to Eagle Dynamics and Wags and the team. This will do for now. Prickly Hedgehog out. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.